Language learning has a ton of paradoxes. I don't know why people don't talk about them more. This is month 3 of relearning my native language. And I've learned other languages before, but since I'm largely fluent in Romance languages, I forgot about all these other roadblocks you have at the early stages. In this video, I'm going to go into the 3 biggest paradoxes I ran into this month and some steps so you can get over this catch-22. There's also going to be clips of me actually speaking Polish here. So if you're trying to make progress in your own language, you can keep watching this series and watch me actually make progress in real time without peacocking, showboating, and otherwise deceiving. The first paradox I'll get into is kind of a pet peeve of mine. It's the fact that if you are trying to learn languages, you're probably suddenly seeing a million advertisements about stuff you can buy so you can learn a language. But the thing is, you cannot buy a language. This is something I think that especially beginners who are starting in their first kind of like second language or first learning language as an adult really fall into. Just because you have the nicest stuff and you have a lot of it, and I'm talking apps, books, classes, tutors, whatever, doesn't mean that you're going to actually absorb all of that. That's because languages need a lot of time. It's super tempting when you see something new and flashy to want to buy that because you're not happy with the results of what you're currently using. For this, there's probably about 3 ways you can get over this paradox. The first is that if you do have the money to spend on a language, spend it on freeing up more time, since spending time on a language is going to get you a lot farther than spending money. So that could be pre-cooked foods, investing in a Roomba so you don't have to clean up after your dogs all the time, using delivery or courier services instead of doing errands. And to be clear, I don't have this kind of money, but if I did, I would do it. Now, if you don't quite have that budget, you can also invest money in services that are more accountability services. I really like language coaching, and I think that instead of spending like all this weekly money on teaching and stuff if you're not getting anywhere, language coaching is an awesome investment. One thing that's a lot cheaper that I love are planners and schedulers that are made for languages. That's why I have a free one on my site that's mostly based in language immersion. But I think doing any sort of bullet journal style tracking or planning is just some of the best stuff you can do during your week. And organizing yourself and then sticking to the plan is actually not that hard. Finally, the thing you can most easily do is just spend more time with the language. I know that's hard, I know it's easier said than done, but if you don't feel like your resources are working, keep working through them. Odds are you probably just haven't found your flow with them, as long as your resources are good at least. Now, the second language learning paradox, which is like really a beginner level thing, is that you can't learn grammar without having vocabulary to put into sentences, but you can't learn vocabulary until you have the grammar to structure the sentences with. This is what was driving me nuts all month. And I don't know if I have a perfect solution to this, but honestly, just drilling the vocabulary, even when it's boring, has helped me a lot. One of the things on my tracker that I'm super proud of is every single day this month, except for like, I think the 11th, I did flashcards. Flashcards suck. Ideally, you're learning vocabulary through conversations and listening practice in an more organic way so it sticks better. But if you don't have the grammar to put together sentences to learn organically, drill baby drill. Now, I have also incorporated that with other creative things like putting sticky notes with vocabulary in my house since I'm learning household vocabulary, listening to so much music. And because I'm a passive bilingual, trying to find videos that I can actually understand at my level, which is like the level of a little kid who spoke Polish when she was 6, who now can't speak it, sort of. So drilling vocab really helped me a lot this month. Now finally, the biggest paradox in language learning is that you're not ready to start speaking and using the language until you're ready to start speaking and using the language. And it sucks. It's that feeling of, well, I can't have a conversation. I don't know how to have a conversation, so how can I have a conversation? But until you have that conversation, I'm telling you, you're not going to be ready to have that conversation. So this month, even though I wasn't feeling ready, I had my first 3 conversations, almost 100% in Polish, even though it kind of made me want to vomit. Here's what I did. This habit tracker I was holding up earlier was mostly reading and writing. It wasn't perfect, and actually we're here right now and I haven't filled out the past couple of days, but the idea of writing for me was like simulating a conversation. I found all the high frequency words that I didn't know, I couldn't use. I started getting practice with my cases and my conjugations and all that, and I did it for about 30 minutes a day, which was so hard and honestly kind of boring. Then I went to italki and I contacted a few tutors who had 30-minute speaking sessions that they offered and basically told them a half-truth, which was that I have an A1 level in Polish and I didn't tell them I'm a Polish citizen. I have no intention on telling them that. Being a heritage language speaker is an entirely different paradox. But whatever, I let them know these conversations had to be super basic and super specific. I also sent them a link to a conversation menu, which I have on my blog, so we could focus on different, really specific types of vocabulary, which would reinforce the vocabulary I was using. And it was cool.
Cześć, jestem Marysa. Cię poznać.
There was a lot of victories.
Mieszkam w Stanie Zjednoczonych. Tak, mieszkam w północy. Tak, jest imię. Jest imię hiszpańską.
And we talked about the things I was actually learning in my textbook.
Tak, chcę mówić o tematu kuchni. Tak, jedzenie. Tak, chcę mówić o tematu jedzenia.
Since in theory I had learned these like very specific little bits of grammar. So that conversation list was clutch. But mostly it was,
Jak się mówi? No.
But I did it. After 3 months of relearning my native language, I had some really basic, kind of boring, but also kind of very cool conversations. Honestly, I'm feeling really good. I don't think I've mentioned this. I'm literally studying Polish 1 to 4 hours a day. And I want to be clear that I have this time right now. So do not use this 3-month marker as like your I must do it by then marker. Yes, start speaking before you're ready. Break that paradox. Do it 3-4 months in. If you're working with a tutor, you can even do it the first day. But depending on what your language is and how familiar you are with that language, we're all gonna be on our own schedules. So that's it. That's my 3-month update. Now, Christmas is less than 2 months away. One of my original goals was to have a conversation with my grandparents by Christmas. That's very ambitious, considering my grandparents probably aren't going to have much patience for how much umming and awing and pausing I'm currently doing. So we'll see. But starting this week, I'm going to have minimum 2 30-minute conversations in my very low-level Polish every week. I'm also going to continue writing in some way, shape, or form, since even though it's really boring, it's definitely really helping me. And then obviously I'm going to keep working on vocabulary and I'm going to keep working on grammar because my grammar is still a mess. Like all those conversations, my grammar was a mess. And there we have it. See you next month.